Happy 2025, everyone. We made it. Here we are. What an exciting 2024 it was. We're glad to be back, charging forward to the new year. We've got big expectations for the year ahead. And what a way to start this off with big blowout, huge numbers that came in late last year in gold and assays from Ramp Metals. This was one that just I hadn't heard of. It just kind of came across mininghub.com, and I saw these results, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this? Where should I reach out to this person?" This is what Mining Hub is so great for, is they'll post those results, and so I was able to get a hold of Jordan Black here, who is the CEO over at Ramp Metals, and we just got to talking about, which is also another big benefit of the mining sector, is like when you see results, you can often get a hold of someone very quickly, not only someone in the IR team, but a president of CEO. Not every time, but you can. They're there to chat with you, and we were able to chat and talk about the results, the program moving forward. And the results were so strong. I was like, okay, we need to talk about this and see what you guys are up to. And then in that conversation, we just had a really interesting conversation regarding gold and crypto, the economy, and everything else. And of course, Jordan being younger and having a unique perspective of his kind of path moving forward. And in that crypto and gold space argument that is very, very heated right now, I thought this would be a very exciting way to start off and charge forward to 2025. Jordan, great to have you on. Happy New Year. How are you doing? Oh, the sound.
Looks like I got muted.
There we go. You're good.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be your first show of the year.
Yes. Well, I mean, those numbers were great. I mean, that's I might as well start off with that obvious. It was 73.55 grams per tons over 7.5 meters.
Yeah, just insane numbers. We were even blown away when they first came across our desk. We couldn't be more happy and surprised with those numbers, right? We were originally looking for battery metals, and underneath our conductors, we found a really nice gold discovery.
That's what I'd call a happy accident. That's pretty wild. That's awesome. And we're going to get more into like the details of that, but I wanted people to understand the focus of this is to talk about the economy moving forward, a place for gold, how you even got into gold, because it's rare that I would say that of less importance is that you might find something. It's like, no, you found something. These are huge numbers. This is great. This is quite a start. And that's rare to have, that you can fall back on data that's strong. And I wanted to make sure that people got to meet you, got to hear about what you guys are planned for and moving forward, because once again, those results are outstanding. And there's going to be a lot of eyes on you guys moving forward here to see what comes from further results that are due soon, and then what the plan moving forward in the new year. Because once again, that those are game changer type of results.
Yeah, look, the first time we got those results, I actually plugged them into Grok AI, and I was like, what percentile hit is this in the world? And it came back, it was the top 3% intercept at the time. That's
huge. That's amazing. Yeah, and like, once again, I saw it on a Mining Hub, and I had to look a couple times. I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's wow. And this is Saskatchewan as well. So usually you'd think, oh, okay, it's something like when you just first see the number, you're like, it was pretty wide as well. Usually I think 75 grams per ton. Maybe it's like a meter, maybe it's half a meter, but no, 7.5 meters. That's a big width with big numbers. That's what people want to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, before we get into the details about the project and everything else, I want to kind of get a sense of your pathway to get here, to even want to start a mining company. What got you into this area, and kind of tell that story, because it parallels with some crypto, which is a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a long story, but I started my career off at Western University. I took civil and geotech engineering. So for the first 10 plus years of my engineering career, I did consulting engineering. And that was mostly feasibility studies for mines, building roads, foundations for wind turbines, you name it. I was on the consulting side. But during that time, I was always fascinated in business and financial markets. So I had a trading website called technicalroom.com at the time. And I love charting. I love technical analysis because I was an engineer. I could quantify it. And I got a popular charting account on stocktwits.com and was invited back in 2012 to Coronado. They had the first Stocktoberfest at the time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great name.
That is.
Yeah, for sure, right? Howard Lindzen, he's a venture capitalist in the US. He originally from Canada. He founded StockTwits and invited me down there. And actually, that's when I discovered Bitcoin at the time. That was like the talk back then. And it was like $185. So I was like, okay, I better buy a little bit, right? And that really got me down the rabbit hole back then. And fast forward to 2017, I saw the Bitcoin and Ethereum market like really picking up again. So I'm like, okay, I really got to get into this space full time. This is the future. So at the time, I quit my engineering job to help found and move forward a Bitcoin mining company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We started this Bitcoin mining company called Bit City. That was eventually purchased for like $40 million. It was a great story at first, but then the market kind of, I think in 2017, it ran up to in December to almost like 20,000 Bitcoin price. And then in the new year, it kind of collapsed. So that deal unfortunately never went through, but it really gave me the interest in venture capital.
Yeah.
So that's when I got, after that, I was offered a venture capital job, did that for a bit. And one of our big investments actually was Goldspot Discoveries, which is now Earth Labs.
Yes.
So I helped take them public. And on day one of trading, I actually joined their team. I got along really well with Denis Lavillette. And I really wanted to bridge the finance and tech side with Goldspot. And if your viewers aren't aware, they're one of the first companies to use AI to target drill targets, right? So that's how I actually got into the, I guess, junior exploration space. It was through Goldspot, and I really fell in love with like that early grassroots exploration after working with Goldspot for over a year. So I guess fast forward now to 2 years ago, I always wanted to do my own thing. And my business partner, Prit Singh, who's a director of Rant Metals, he introduced me to these two geos, Garrett and Brett, who are our two geologists now for Rant Metals. And they were just super passionate about finding a discovery and making a discovery in their backyard, Saskatchewan. And they've always worked for the majors there, and they know it like the back of their hand, right? So I was like, okay, these guys are really passionate. Let's form a company and build it around grassroots exploration and around the geos as well, who know the properties and know the lay of the land.
Did they come with the property, or was it like they had some suggestions like, hey, we've got a couple ideas, what do you think? Or how'd that flow?
Yeah, so they came with the properties essentially. They had Rottenstone resources, and I didn't want to just build a company based on an option. I wanted to build a company with people, just in case if something goes wrong and we didn't hit that gold, right? You have the people to fall back on and look for a new property, right? So we vended them in. They're two of the largest shareholders of Rant Metals, and they form the core team.
It's a wild story. I mean, just because it's fascinating that you didn't get stuck. I always say stuck, but you just didn't say, I just want to focus on the crypto side. Like, because people think, yes, it's volatile and that can be nerve wracking, but the returns are massive. Now, that's the perception. My argument is always that, well, the returns are just as massive in the junior mining space. It's just people aren't as aware of it. And the discovery side, I would imagine, and you can tell me from your kind of sense of self, is still the same excitement. Like if you discover something new with a crypto or in fintech or in something where you're like, oh, this works here, that's got to be a discovery and a feeling just the same as, hey, we're hitting on things over here. That kind of that excitement and that kind of you're juiced up. I imagine it must feel somewhat the same for you.
Yeah, I think they're very similar, if not the same, on excitement and potential upside, high risk, high reward in junior exploration, right? And I've always thought, like, how do we bridge the younger generation into junior mining, right? That's been the challenge that's been talked about over the last few years. And I think it'll come down to on ramps and off ramps. So people could, I guess, sell their Bitcoin or their Ethereum and trade it for ramp metals in 2 clicks of a button on their phone.
Yeah.
And get the younger generation excited about mining again. And how do we do that? And that's really the challenge here. And that's what I look forward to doing actually over the next couple of years with Ramp is really getting that younger generation back into mining.
Yeah, and we talked about it a bit. Like, there's no justifiable reason why, if you have interest in any meme coin or a real crypto or Bitcoin, why you wouldn't be interested in the same type of narrative and story development in mining. Because I used to think, it's the risk factor is too high. People don't want to invest in mining because of the risk premium. And I think I was talking to you, and my favorite go-to for the last month, which is up 782%, by the way, is Fartcoin. So I realized quickly at 1.4 billion market cap that there's an appetite for risk. So that's my kind of go-to where I laugh. I think, all right, I've misunderstood the market for risk that people have. And that isn't what's holding young people back. And you made a good point of saying, well, if someone couldn't, like right now, they can't go on Robinhood and go, well, I'll sell some of my fart coin or whatever crypto or meme coin, and I'll just go pick up a bit of ramp. A lot of these platforms don't have junior mining companies on there, and that's one of the impediments that they don't know it's there. And I imagine also just sheer marketing dollars. That's a big factor too. I mean, it's
for sure
hundreds and hundreds of millions that crypto and Bitcoin and whatnot spend on marketing, and it's tough to compete against that. So tell me what some of your thoughts are without giving away too much as well. What are your thoughts, or what can we do to help bridge that gap?
Yeah, well, I think first it's going to come down to regulation. We need favorable regulation to actually bridge that gap. So we see Elon Musk and Donald Trump getting into the US now, and they favor crypto. So if they could put in the proper regulations to protect investors, and then exchanges like Robinhood will bring in the meme coins, and they could also bring in the junior miners. I think we need to find a way to get all these junior miners listed on Robinhood as well. Simply not paying like 50 grand or whatever per exchange to get listed, right? Because some of these junior miners, they want to put all that money. Actually, we all want to put that money back in the ground, right?
Yes.
So 50 grand to get listed on Robinhood or wherever, or OTC in the US, it's usually a waste of money unless we can get on those big platforms like Robinhood.
Yes. And it's that interesting discussion that people feel like, if I don't put every dollar in the ground, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get criticized on every platform and forum out there. They'll go, you're not putting enough money in the ground. But if you don't market, no one will know. Even when you have good results, they're not going to know who you are, what you're up to, or anything else. And we hear it so much in the mining space because for so long it's been kind of beat up. But once again, I revert back to some of the crypto and meme coins. It's 99.9% marketing. There's nothing there. It's just a meme. And you go, well, this thing has massive appetite and people are willing to buy it. That there has to be a happy medium in between. And I'm hoping too, like you'd said, there was a comment by Trump that anything over $1 billion, we're going to make a pathway for permitting and making business happen in the U.S. I'm hoping when I hear permitting, I think of projects. I think of like oil and gas. I think of mining. I think of major kind of obstacles that stop business. And I'm hoping that starts there and comes quickly to Canada, where we revamp things and go, we need to be serious about utilizing our natural resources to fund technology and investment moving forward in 2025. So that's a lot of my splatter there. Pick and choose which parts you wanted to jump on.
Yeah, quickly, I'll go back to like the bridging the gap too. You mentioned
Yes.
like meme coins, right? I think what meme coins actually are, and they're valued at $1 billion, as you said, right? Like Dogecoin is like 50 billion. Fart coin went to 1.5 or whatever it went, right? Pepe the Frog. These are all well-known marketing brands now.
Yes.
But what support those brands are the communities. And that's what junior mining kind of lacks right now, is the communities built around young people. So if we could maybe use a meme coin to bridge that gap into, or not a meme coin, but a meme symbol itself, and bridge that gap into mining, and show the younger generation that mining can be fun, and with a little bit of a risk, you can have just as high reward as a coin, as a crypto coin as well. I think that will be key, and it all stems down to your community and your following. But yeah, going into your second thought there about like regulation, like we definitely need the mining, right? The mining industry to be deregulated in a safe and environmental way. And I think North America, we're super overregulated compared to the rest of the world. And if we want ESG friendly silver, copper, nickel that goes into our batteries that are going to drive, or that are going to be building these Teslas, we need the government to allow us to mine those resources in North America. And I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump will deregulate a lot of that in the US, and then Canada will probably follow. And when I say deregulate, I mean like pushing things forward that are environmentally sound and make sense, right? And not holding them like in a political backfire.
Yeah, so many projects are held hostage. I mean, it's insane. It really is that, because I'm not in favor of anything being deregulated, but the regulation on some industry is so over the top, it's prohibitive. And I liken it to, whatever one's take is on O'Leary of the O'Leary funds, the Shark Tank fellow. He was on saying that he had gone to some sovereign wealth funds and was pitching different ideas, and he said, they were like, well, where is this going to be? Where are you going to have this project? He's like, oh, it's in Canada. And every one of them were like, no, we have no interest in doing business in Canada. And you're like, what? Like, that's to have that feedback that they're like, your regulations, your government are anti-business. There's nothing we can do right now. That to me sounds a very clear signal, regardless of what anyone thinks of the politics part, is that if it's known that you're not open for business, or that you're difficult to deal with, that's a very bad sign for tech, for any sector. Is no one wants to know, well, you're challenging to deal with. So I'm hoping too, like you said, that there's an acknowledgement by all people, regardless of what one thinks of all the hot topic politics stuff, is that we need better management and better openness to innovation, technology, and pathways to really to give ourselves a chance at becoming a powerhouse that we like literally have the bedrock to become.
Yeah, actually, you made a really good point there. Like the bedrock and the resources we have. Canada has like fumbled the ball over the last 8-9 years with our resources. I barely hear any of the federal ministers talk about our oil in the ground or our gold. I think, what is it? We have number 3 most oil reserves under the ground, and number 5 gold reserves, just sitting there doing nothing, right? And think how many thousands and thousands of jobs that could be created if we promoted our resources, not the resources from the Middle East or from Africa or wherever these commodities come from that people buy here and they don't even know it's from there. But we all want to be environmentally cautious about it. We just have to educate the population that, look, Canada does have the highest standards in the world. This is why we're doing it, and it's going to create millions of jobs.
I like that. And I like the fact that you're reiterating the info I like to put out there is that we cannot any further go NIMBY, not in my backyard. We want it in our backyard, almost quite literally, because we can oversee it. Because all of these products and innovations are being made. The amount of power that's required, like we thought there would be a lot because there's data centers and there's AI. It's like, well, imagine now you've got the EV story, and if you're sick about hearing the EV story, I was just thinking over Christmas. Think of the robots, like the robotics that are going on in the next 5 years. The amount of resources to make one robot, and they're saying that there's going to be like 100 million robots building things. Like that's going to require so much metal and so much energy that we need all hands on deck and to do it properly because it's going to get done. And this kind of burying our heads in the sand and going, well, at least we in Canada can say we're super green while we're still using every product that's oil and gas and that's made from metals. But just say, but we won't do any of the actual work here.
It was all good until COVID hit and supply chains got crushed. And then you saw inflation go through the roof. And then people are wondering, oh, why? Like, don't we have these resources here? And it's like, no, we actually buy everything from Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, right? Like,
yes,
people don't want to see that. But the reason for that is because they just haven't been educated and no one's talked about it for the last 10 years other than our small mining circles that we're in, right? We've been pushing these regulations for a long time and pushing these certain mine sites, right? It's not easy to build a mine, right? You have not only do you have to find the resource, which like, look where we're at, right? We founded this company over 2 years ago. Just to get public, it almost took 2 years. Then you have to find the gold in the ground or the copper in the ground. Then you have to actually hire engineers and prove that there's a resource there. And then you have to do your environmental studies until you could even get to a mine, right? So if we could expedite that process with smart people, engineers, people like Elon Musk to do things properly, Canada can be I want to say one of the richest countries in the world, right? Because we have the resources to do so.
There's no reason why we couldn't. We could literally be the change in any of the kind of climate change narrative, if one wants to think of it that way, and innovation of technology to solve the energy crisis. And we could, and even if you are concerned about doing a transition from oil and gas onward, people forget that even if we were to attempt that and do it correctly, it's a transition. It isn't a stop oil and gas today, and all of a sudden we're just going to get magically energy from the sun or from hydro. And it's a boring conversation because I know people don't want to talk. They're like, oh, energy's boring, but and we're fighting a machine that tells them otherwise about how energy is created or what's real. That kind of knowledge base of helping people understand, it's challenging, but I think it's coming along. And I think a change of government wouldn't be bad where people can then listen and understand, listen, this is what the reality is of energy. This is the reality of where we need to go. If we want to create all these solar panels, we need, 30 new silver mines. Where are they going to come from? Like, exactly. How realistic is that possible? Like where?
Yeah, I would love to see the focus change back to like working together in unity, other than like this, what's it called? Like doing climate change on one side of the fence and mining on the other side of the fence, right? Let's bridge even crypto and AI. Those are two sectors that are actually going to come together. And then what needs to support that is the resources, and all those sectors should work together, and all the funding should go into the entire supply chain. And then that will get the younger generation excited about mining again, because they'll be like, wow, this silver came from Rant Metals up in Saskatchewan, and then it funneled into this GPU that I'm mining Dogecoin with.
Yes. Yes. And they'll understand that. It'll be a natural flow of understanding that, oh, I get it. And, that I think is an important narrative that people understand, where their ingredients come from to bake the cake. Like it matters, and it's going to matter moving forward. And that I think is important, that people have that kind of pathway of understanding where I got my things from. Did it come from a country that I can trust, and that I, because we see even with like the Congo suing Microsoft, I mean, and Apple. I mean, these things, they happen, and that's the news story that sticks out, is how terrible. Oh, look what's happening here. It's like, well, okay, that you can get around that. You can focus on your regions that are very well regulated and that can supply you with the proper material and do it correctly. And we've got a great opportunity right now. And we see this, like you were mentioning, this kind of developing quickly with the nuclear story. So the quick run from all this acknowledgement that all our data centers, our AI data centers, are going to be backed by nuclear. And that hasn't trickled. We had a big uranium run last year, but that's going to be massively bullish for all uranium, especially Canada. We're such a major supplier. People are starting to associate both those together. And I think we need to do that on every metal.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really good point about the uranium, because ever since Fukushima, or is it Fukushima, was it?
Yeah, Fukushima, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Greenpeace and the whole world was scared of nuclear. It was a very unfortunate disaster, and it killed the industry for 10 plus years, right? But it is the cleanest form of energy. And if you want all these data centers and you want to support climate change, or actually fight back against climate change and be have renewable power, you need a base load to support that. So actually Canada is being innovative on the modular nuclear reactors. I thought that was pretty interesting. So I think we are building one of the first ones or something like that. But
we got the can-do reactor, which is pretty awesome. We are restarting a couple programs and refurbishing a couple programs. And then, of course, Cameco bought Westinghouse. Right. Sorry. Pardon me. Westinghouse, which creates nuclear reactors. So that's the interesting story with the likes of Cameco, where they are pretty much known as a uranium producer. They buy Westinghouse last year, and all of a sudden we're now also creating nuclear reactors. We're our own supply chain of from ground to energy usage. That's a very exciting long-term story. I think.
Yeah, that's actually that's a genius move, because I think they've realized that these new modular reactors don't use as much uranium, right? So they're like, how do we capitalize on this movement, right? If we're not going to be selling as much uranium as we did in the past, let's just start building the modular ones.
Yeah, it's a good mix, because they'll build the huge long-term ones as well, but those small modular ones, you have to preload them as well, so they get pre-sales as well, which is pretty handy.
Yeah, it gets those balance sheets.
It helps clean things up, and that's not that they need cleaning up; they've been doing great in the last year, but that gives a kind of a sniff and a hint at where things are going. And I'm going to take this a big step back here again, because it's so curious, because you're certainly younger than I am, that the discussion over crypto and gold, one would originally think, if they met you, well, I owned Bitcoin in 2012, that you would have zero interest in gold. Like, that's generally speaking, it's like, don't buy that shiny rock, it's crap. So tell me what your experience was. It because that you started off in like geoscience and engineering? Was it because of that start that you kept an open mind, or what happened?
So what's the question? Why I still like gold and commodities? Like, I think I'm bullish on commodities in general. I think they're going to be needed for forever, right? And gold is one of the rarest elements on Earth, and there's only a fixed supply of it. Similar to Bitcoin, right? There's a fixed supply. Bitcoin is digital gold. It's the currency of the internet. People in North America might have been a slower adapter of it, just because our financial systems are so good here compared to like a third world country. But back then, I really saw, like, when Twitter first I guess was created, that people would be transacting with a digital currency, and you can back a lot of these currencies with gold, right? So Bitcoin itself is backed by energy, right? And you need the nuclear power and renewable energy to fund the servers that actually solve the equations that mine Bitcoin. And that's similar to gold in the sense of its rarity. There's only so much gold on the earth, and you have to explore and find it and use energy to get that gold out of the ground. So that's all value in my mind. And I think we'll see worlds turn to back to reserve currencies to help solve these debt issues. We've printed money out of thin air for probably way too long. And what you'll see is I think the U.S. will do it with Elon and Trump leading the U.S. here, where they might have a bit of a reserve now, and they'll back it with not just gold this time, but they'll back it with gold, Bitcoin, oil. It'll be a basket reserve to help fund these debt issues, really.
So what do you consider Bitcoin? Because I'm going to give you a bit of pushback on my take on Bitcoin. I like some cryptos out there, but Bitcoin, do you consider it money, currency? Do you think it's a tradable, transactable thing? Like, you think could replace the Fed? Do you think, like, what's your take on what it could do? Or is it just, it's an asset, it's just something here?
I think it's a separate asset class. I think it'll never replace the dollar. It'll just be an alternative currency, alternative asset. Everyone's gonna, and you see BlackRock doing this, right, with their ETFs and with their clients. Pension funds, they're all gonna own. Before it was like put 5% of your portfolio in gold to hedge inflation, right? It's gonna be the same thing. Put 5% gold or 5% commodities and 5% Bitcoin, or it'll start less, right? It's going to start at like 1%.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just trying to make a point where the pension funds and the institutions are going to lead that, and they're going to start recommending it to everyone's pension portfolios, right? And the more people that use it, the more it's going to get adopted. And that's just from, call it the financial world, whether it's a commodity or a currency, whatever you want to call it. But then you have layers built on top. And where I think it's really going to be valuable is when it intersects with AI. And you see that right now. Like, you joke about Fartcoin, but it's actually like an automated AI modulo, right? And there's other AI coins that actually might solve a lot of the world's issues, because that's where the funding is. So if you have a really cool AI idea, you're going to go to the crypto world to get it funded, probably.
So, because here's my pushback, is that because it's unregulated and you're allowed to say things, do things that we would be arrested for. Like, if I go out and say Grant Metals is going to do X% and it's going to be like an X dollar stock, immediately, like, I'm getting in trouble. I can go say that Fartcoin is going to $20 because it isn't regulated. I can say anything I want, and I can pump it. I can do whatever. It never has to actually meet any of its requirements. And I would argue that Bitcoin hasn't met almost any of its requirements. It's not transactable. It's what, 7 transactions a second compared to 50,000 from Visa. So
that's why you're never going to use it.
You're not going to use it.
Buy a Starbucks
yes.
coffee, and it's too valuable. It's too valuable for that, right? Like, you're not going to use a bar of gold to
buy something.
So, where was I going with that? Sorry, what were you saying right before that?
It's not transactable. It's entirely traceable as well, so it's not anonymous. It doesn't get away with banking, so it doesn't stop.
The regulation stuff.
Regulations, so, yes.
In Canada and the US, we probably can't say, "Oh, I think this coin's going to 10x," because you're giving financial advice. So I think we do have some regulations here, but we do need proper regulations, right? Crypto in the States needs regulation the same way that metals would need regulation, right? So it protects the investor and it protects the people making the coins as well, right? People right now, so we're talking about all the good coins that are successful, right?
Yeah.
They're going to billions of dollars for a reason. But then there's a lot of coins. There's a site called pump.fun.
Yeah.
People are making 1,000 coins a day, and in the hopes that one becomes successful. And that's where you get the scammers to come in.
Yes.
But if you allow for banking regulation and you allow for entrepreneurs to actually come back to the US and make their companies in the US, give them tax breaks, build real crypto companies that are regulated under the same playing field as everyone else, then it's okay, right? But right now it's still a bit of the wild, wild west.
Yeah, because I don't think that they're purposely saying we don't want to be seen as like they want. I know that some want to be considered, like Ripple wants to be considered under the Commodities Exchange Commission, not under Securities Exchange Commission. They don't want to be considered a stock, because if they're considered a stock, then because right now that you can say it's going to the moon, you can make all sorts of outrageous claims and no one gets in trouble. It's constant. Every YouTube channel, I'm constantly getting hit by all these like outrageous claims, and no one gets in trouble. I mean, it's amazing. So I don't want to get too much into the regulation thing, because I think it's a different story, the regulation, when they talk about it, than if we're talking about regulation in mining. They don't want regulation, or they want to say
confuse the two. And
like
I think the reason a lot of this, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're pretty decentralized, so no one entity can really control it. But these smaller ones are more like companies. Maybe they are security. Yeah. And that's where you'd want them to have regulation, right? But Bitcoin, you just want people to be able to buy in their bank, stored in the Royal Bank or whatever, right? Stored in your house and feel comfortable that no one's going to scam you with it.
Yeah, which is tough, because like with some of these too, is because they're trustless transactions. That means if you are a victim of fraud, you can never get your money back, because all it's identifying is the money there. It's not saying, is that person a trusted source? It's just, if I'm sending you 20 grand, is the 20 grand there? Yes. Boom. And that bypasses all of the, well, did I just trade with XYZ terrorist organization or the XYZ this? I don't know. Or if I did get scammed, can I go back at you? No, you can't. The transaction is done. There's no in between. There's no mitigating insurance. There's nothing one can be done for that. But once again, you're saying you're not going to transact with it though. So you're just going to hold it.
Yeah. So one, I guess if we wanted to talk about like safe regulation in Canada, you can use a company like CoinSquare that has their FinTrack, and you can buy it with them. And if a hack or something happened, you're insured just like your bank's insured. I think.
Very interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. And don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they insure up to an X amount.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can take it and store it on your little USB stick, which is called a ledger, whatever you want, and bring that around, keep it in your safe, keep it in a safety deposit box, so that you can control it just like you would that gold bar. So that's why I see a lot of similarities.
Yes.
Even though you can't see that Bitcoin, it is on that USB stick, and you do store it in a safe place. And a lot of these institutions like BlackRock, they probably use custodians like Coinbase.
Sure.
And then they take their USB sticks and store them in their safety deposit box, or have a security firm, because they're managing billions of dollars, right? But yeah, it's a very interesting topic. You could tell I'm excited about it.
Yes.
It's my hobby, right? So my day job is Rant Metals, but I'm also an investor in many things, and a large portion of my portfolio is in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, no, they are fascinating, because I mean, there has to be a resolution. I still don't know what that looks like with the amount of money printing it's alarming. It's shocking. And to even try to get my head wrapped around what that could possibly look like as a solve is more than challenging. And then not picking on one crypto or not, but just some of the positives of the contracts being associated. That's like part of the Ethereum type projects I love, because I'm like, now that I like, where you can start to see on an exchange like a full contract with gold. Like you could cut back costs and transactions that are immediate, that have a contract that you've already agreed to. So there is a mechanism like that type of stuff. Fascinating,
right there, right?
Yeah, that's a fascinating part where I'm like, yes, we need to get that integrated. And those types of things are really cool when you see how some of this fintech it really should. I mean, because they're doing some of this in China and whatnot, is like we should be leading that in a much more profound way. And there's lots of mitigating factors. I know that people will point to a lot of credit card companies and go, well, they don't want to give up control because they've got a nice system now where they charge a ton of money in order to provide services that we could really do without.
For sure. It's all about control, right? You're going to kill someone's revenue stream. And,
yes, and a big one.
You got to tread lightly on that. For sure.
Yeah, you're going to make a lot of enemies very quickly. And I think people understand that, or if they don't understand that, that's the level of playing field that this comes into. I mean, you can see why there's so much money flowing into it. So I want to play a little devil's advocate then and say, if you tokenized a mining product, a stream, a royalty, if you said, okay, I'm just going to tokenize it and pitch it in an interesting way. So we're not really doing anything magically different. We're just trying to tokenize an existing revenue stream or just a brand new. I'm going to create a streaming gold company for juniors, and it's going to be a coin. It's tokenized. Is that kind of like an idea you're thinking, or is that like, no, it's too complex? Like, don't go down that road.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. First, you don't want to create a new security because, say, for example, you have rent metals. That's a fixed supply currently, and you're not going to go create another token and give them the benefit of that, right? But I think what you can do is for the larger mines, they could tokenize their gold and they could sell it to. There's a few companies now that have USD backed digital currencies, right? So there's USDC and there's a few other ones. And what they're going to do is have reserves that are backing this USD, right? So you could essentially tokenize a portion of your gold, if you're Newmont or whatever, and you can pre-sell that probably into a token. But then it's that other company doing it. So they're buying the gold from you and they're tokenizing your gold and they're using it to back this USDC or whatever this stable coin is. So you can go in and out of gold and USD or CAD pretty fast. The way I was thinking one day, maybe for ramp, if we once we actually establish a reserve and deposit, right, you can pre-sell maybe a royalty. So that company would come buy maybe a 1% royalty for X amount, and then they tokenize it. And maybe people in the crypto world can say, oh, wow, this company has X amount of Rant Metals royalty. I'm going to buy that token. And then that gets Rant Metals exposure in the crypto industry. So I think there's a lot of things that we're able to do probably in the next, 2 to 5 years, right? That I'm pretty excited for. And that would actually be regulated by then. And you go through all the proper channels and make sure it's sound, right?
Well, that's why another reason why we want to have you on is to have young people that are innovative and that have a creative outlook, like obviously intelligent. You have to be intelligent with the creativity to pose some of the challenges we have in mining, because I would argue it's very long. It's lots of permits. It can be boring. I mean, yes, it can be very exciting in a positive and negative way, but we need to bring attention and focus. And one of the best ways to do that is that association with technology, which a lot of us already try to do. But, leaning on, younger people like yourself who have an expertise and who have a love of the crypto space and AI to kind of throw out ideas of like what we're missing on our, like what we could be doing better. And not only just to attract the talent, because there's a desperate need for lots of talent in mining, but to convey the overall story about the good that it will do for the country and the having access to all these metals, whether it's gold or silver or anything else. They have an incredible place and a foundation for building out, whether it's the solar panels, whether it's uranium for funding nuclear, whatever it is that kind of foundation, if it's built strong, we have a huge opportunity. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to come on and have this discussion and chat with you, because sometimes we forget that you're a CEO of a mining company, but I've taken it for granted, and I'll say it again, like the results you got were so great that usually I'm on and talk about, well, what could this result be, or what are you going to do, build out, start it, is that, I mean, I just have to tell people, go take a peek at what what you guys pulled out of the ground. And I'll let you kind of jump in here too, what's coming up, because you're not done. There's more results coming.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we were talking about getting investors excited in the exploration phase. Well, now's the time to get excited about ramp metals. So we had those great results. We analyzed them, went back in the field, did 14 days of prospecting, found some really interesting things at the surface. We're actually expected to get the lab results any day now from that field work. We actually made a brand new discovery to the northwest. So we had our gold discovery at Ranger, and about seven or so kilometers to the northwest, there was another outcrop that looks to be mineralized with copper. So that could get really interesting there. And then once we get these results here, we're going to go fly geophysics. What that's going to do, I guess in layman terms, is we're going to go look for, I guess, magnetics in the ground, and also to see how conductive the bedrock is, so we can look for mineralization. And that will lead right into our drill program at the end of the month into February. It's probably going to be a month-long drill program that will bring us into PDAC, right? So starting hopefully next week, we're going to have some like constant news flow. And that's the exciting stuff that can really get people going and get eyes on ramp metals. And really, it's just the beginning, right? Like a lot of projects are recycled and they have a few holes already, and they're extending those holes. But this was a complete greenfield site. No one's even walked on it probably in like 100 years. And we went and flew geophysics and just decided to put 4 holes in the ground, and we made one of the biggest discoveries in the world, right? Biggest intercepts that we really hope that turns into a big discovery. And after we finish this, call it 3,000 to 5,000 meters of drilling, we'll have a better idea of how big this gold discovery can be, and what else is on the property, because it's 32,000 hectares, right? So it's almost like 32 kilometers from end to end. It's a massive property with lots of anomalies on there.
That's the second step that I always look for when you see a great result. You're like, okay, was this twinned? Is this just like someone reconfirming something? And it's when you're like, no, it's not. Then it's like it's very easy to get excited. You're like, oh, this is something new. Like this is pretty cool. And I mean, we can never tell the future. It is, because I mean, you can never tell the future. There's no guarantees of anything, but it's highly unlikely you hit exactly one spot in the middle of a ground where there happen to be high intersect. There's got to be something around there. Something's feeding something, and it's a great place to hit to then chase after from that.
And just to step in there. So we hit that gold, the high grade around 220 meters down. But when we were cutting the drill pads to drill that hole, we did take, I think, 16 surface samples at the time, like throughout the property, and we hit gold at the surface. So that's why we decided to put that call it YOLO hole there, because there was an anomaly around 50 meters down. And then also the gold at surface, which was one gram per ton. And I think the other one was 5 grams per ton, which is pretty significant for a surface sample.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not only the great indications, it's great results so far. And I love the fact that there's urgency. Like there's news that, it's coming. That's always exciting. Never mind the fact that we're into January, February, March, which are big months in mining, because we've got VRIC, we've got Metals Investor Forum, you got PDAC coming up. It's a lot of show and tell. A lot of big companies are chatting with everyone, and they're looking at projects. I suspect outside of Ramp, and maybe including you as well, there's going to be a lot happening in the next 3 months with majors and with looking at projects and selling some projects and buying some projects or investing in projects. I think we're going to see a lot of that, which will be optimistic for the market. I wanted to ask you a little bit too, because we're covering a lot of topics and we'll keep this interesting. How do you think some of this AI could work because I think we're at a place now with the level of AI that you could plug in geophysics. It's like you could give it enough data, say, this is the metrics we need to be looking for in a similar geological setting that have found results. If you keep training and training and training, the hope, I would think, would be it would start to identify, yes, we're identifying targets, I would think, in theory, sooner or later with pretty good regularity.
Yeah, I think we're there right now. That's what we were doing at Goldspot, and they eventually sold their consulting arm to ALS, right?
Yeah.
But it was all about training the model. It's, okay, you have all this data that might take a normal geologist 3 months to review. You pack it into a machine and call it AI. It's actually machine learning, and you set parameters that are set by, call it the smartest geologists in the world. Like they hired, I think it was over 10 PhDs at the time. We had data scientists on the team and to really train these models. And then once you have that model, and once it's been successful a couple times, you can repeat that over and over to find drill targets. And that's just exploration, right? There's many ways we can use AI in mining. Once you actually build a mine, a lot of the bigger companies like Newmont and Rio, they have AI architects working for them already, and they're trying to improve their systems and automate them. And the more data you have, the better it gets, right? It all comes to data. You can't just like use AI and go find a gold nugget in the ground. Right?
Yeah.
What you can do, though, is you could train satellite data, just like going further into the topic, and you can use INSAR, and maybe the bedrock reflects a certain way and the machine learns that, and maybe you could find copper. I think there's one company that claims they could find sulfides in the rock with satellite, but you still have to like ground truth that. And I'm sure the easy sites are taken already, right? Like a lot of people have been prospecting for hundreds of years, right? And if there's an outcrop that a satellite can see, most likely someone's went and chipped a rock off there, right?
Well, that's, I guess I was kind of diving into, is that we're getting to a point where, and I think it's just time, is that it isn't just the outcrop. Somehow we have to be able to go into the ground, either by satellite somehow or some sort of probe or something quickly, where you could get that data quicker and faster. I'm sure something similar to this is being done currently, but that is cool to think about how this could change.
Yeah, like right now with the geophysics, right? It's called TDEM, the one we're using, and that's magnetics and conductivity, and that actually has to be flown with a helicopter, and it's a big machine that they pick up. It looks like a big circle ring, and they fly that over, and it's super expensive, right? Because helicopters are expensive, and you have to man that equipment, and like a whole property can cost anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 just to fly that. But
fly it,
I think that's when you see a huge technology leap, is when you can do that with satellites, right? But right now we're not there. You have to be close to the ground to be able to shoot through that thick bedrock and the soil that acts like an insulator, right? Because if not, you'll just get like the top 1 meter of the surface, and we go all the way down sometimes to like 500 to 2,000 meters. So.
It is fascinating, and I'm going to touch on something as well. I've got a friend who's one of these like chief strategists at one of the wonderful Magnificent Seven companies. I can't say which one, but you would be shocked if I told you the name, because they have a mining division, and you'd think, what is this? What? Now it's only 5 people on the team, but that's their whole job. They wanted to create a team that would store data, so in the quote unquote cloud, for mining companies. Now, of course, they're running into challenges because a lot of companies don't want to give up their data. Like Newmont's not going to go, oh, here, have all our data. Like they're quite
a competitive thing, right?
Yeah, it's like, they're not sharing it for no reason. So
data is the new oil currency, really, right?
Yeah, the data is everything. But if you could convince them that you're safe and you'll hold it, it's in their vault. They want to do that. They want to get all this data and then apply AI models to it, to then, as a consulting service, come back and go, hey, we've analyzed your data, we've helped you. Here's some targets. And, pay us give us a royalty, or give us this, or give us that. But it's fascinating because you would never know that is something. It's small. I mean, it's a very small division of a massive company, but they're doing it, and that I found was very interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I don't know if you follow like Palantir. It's another huge.
Yeah, I love
company.
Palantir. Yes.
Yeah, I actually almost worked for them. They were
Oh.
looking for someone. This was like right before COVID, looking for someone that could bridge the gap in Canada for mining, actually.
Wow. Holy smokes.
They wanted to break into mining, and I was thinking of working for them. And the things I learned going through those interviews and meeting their executives,
yes,
I was blown away. This was like literally a few months before they went public. And that company, like, they hire the brightest minds in the world to solve data problems for companies. And they're working for airlines, banks, the Pentagon, you name it, right?
That's one of my favorite. We talked about it. We did a show on Palantir last year. I mean, I focus mainly on energy and mining. That's kind of our go-to. But I'm like you, as I get fascinated and I get real excited about companies out there that are really doing innovative things. And watched Alex Karp on a bunch of YouTube. Listen to him thoroughly. And I think the stock was like $16. And I was like, okay, these guys are actually applying AI in very technical, specific ways. And not just the really cool, hey, look at this, image I can make, or write me an essay, like real application and logistics and whatnot. And I mean, it's at what, $80 now? Like, it's just killing it.
Yeah, I think it went up probably 5 or 6x last year alone. If you bought it on the day Trump and Elon got elected, you would have got a double.
Yeah. Well, here it's following that AI along. It's not public yet, but hopefully this year it will. You probably know Lucky Palmer, or what's it? Yeah, Palmer Lucky, or Jesus, Endural Technologies. So
I've heard the name, but I haven't really followed it.
Take a peek at that one too. I mean, once again, it's not public, and I'm not telling anyone you can't buy it anyway. But if they do go public, which would be interesting, which I think they might, that would be an interesting stock for 2025. That would be. Let's just say he's got a very interesting story, and it isn't a stock for everyone because we're talking defense sector, and people will be upset about funding the defense market. But they are applying AI in incredible ways, just from a technological standpoint. Yeah, so what do you think? What's this year? I mean, this is, one of the biggest things we want to do is we're obviously very pro mining, we're pro business, and we want to get people on here that get young people excited, because a lot of times too, I've got lots of nephews and nieces, and sometimes they get like they're black pilled because they're like, where's my role? Like, how can I possibly fit in this world? Like, I'm not going to code. I'm not a genius AI programmer. I'm not this, I'm not that. And I kind of remind them that, listen, it's a very narrow narrative out there on the biggest news platforms, but there's no end to the opportunity. Like, you have to kind of think outside the box, but also it doesn't take that much work to realize all of the solutions that they want. They come from metals. They come from mining. This is where it comes from. And if they want to be able to control the standards of which we do them, well, then you work for them. I think that's the best way. If you want to keep an eye on them to see, are we maintaining great standards? Are we doing things the way we want them to do? Yeah, there's a great way to get involved.
Yeah, the mining sector has tons of different fields, right? Everything from legal to environmentalists. Like, I went in school, I actually took environmental, civil, and geotech engineering. So you need all these people to build a mine, right? You need data scientists. You don't have to be a coder to get into data science, right? And if you took, say, a business degree with mining, now I think it was Schulich does an mining MBA now, and combine that with data science, like, you'd be the most sought out person in the world, probably, right?
Yeah.
It always comes down to human interaction, right? Like, making good connections and growing your network. I think I'd give that advice to any young person is you don't have to be stuck in one field. Just keep hanging out with people, go to the network industry events and just seeing what's out there, right? There's so many jobs that I think are going to be available in the mining sector in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's never too late to switch careers and help bridge that technology gap, right?
Yeah, you're the perfect example of that. I mean, I'm going to simplify this, but from buying Bitcoin in 2012 to being interviewed with Palantir, I mean, that alone, that's an incredible journey. And anybody that knows either of those things, which most people are, if you don't know Palantir already, you're going to know it this year coming forward. It's part of the association with the PayPal mafia kind of. Any company that has any association with that is probably likely to do pretty well in the near future here. But it's Peter Thiel, who I think is also an absolute genius. I think it helps when we associate any of these stories of innovation that require, like all the hardware that Palantir needs, that's coming from metals and mining as well. It solves solutions and logistic problems that not only will help mining, but also that will aid all these companies, whether it's further AI and energy that require all the metals and mining as well. And I think when we can make those associations to people, especially young people, that they see, well, how do I make this? Like, I mean, it's great that we've got this innovation. It's hard for me to understand how some of this actually works because it's challenging. But if I don't know that part and I don't know the engineering of how to make a product, I can also go, well, what for that engineering, what does it take? Like, well, we need this, and this. Well, do we have it? No. We have to go get it. Well, where are we getting it from? China. Oh, well, that's a problem. So, I mean, there's a way that we can quickly find out that there's issues, there's supply issues and demand issues that can be met, and that Canada can supply all of those. And that's where we sit on the forefront this year, I think, of a very powerful year to have that narrative, that story change. And it's great having someone on like yourself, like I said, with this experience, but as also a lover of both. I mean, I am as well. I think they're both fascinating, and it's to soften that debate where people are trying to distance between the two. It's that no, why don't you hedge your bets? Look into the digital side, but also look at the physical side. That's reality. We live in both these worlds now.
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's we need to bridge the gap there and stop making the argument whether it's Bitcoin or gold. It's actually both. And obviously, Bitcoin's catching up and taking some of that market share of gold, but gold will probably always be higher. And Bitcoin's only a sliver of that. Or if you take the whole cryptocurrency market together, it's still only a sliver. And the crypto market needs mining just as much as mining needs crypto. So why not bridge the two and throw in some AI there too? So.
Absolutely. And if someone focused this year at learning that and looking at the upside and the possibilities with all these things, and maybe throwing a sprinkle of robotics and a sprinkle of this and that, I mean, it would be hard not to be hopeful. Like you go, oh my God, there's a lot of innovation happening. There's a lot of very smart people doing very cool things. Instead of we've kind of lived in the last few years of a little bit more like stressed out, like, oh my God, things are challenging. There's chaos, there's this and that. If we can switch that mindset to look at all the really wild stuff that's being created and being done right now, that's a lot easier to get up in the morning when you think of that.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk is going to kickstart a whole new, call it in the 1920s, there was the boom, right? And I think he's actually going to kickstart a technological boom. Because he's going to have the president in his back pocket that is able to deregulate everything, and not just deregulate, but like lift the red tape, right? And allow for innovative jobs to come back to North America, and Canada's going to follow. I know things might be moving slow, and we're probably going to go through an election soon, but it's probably the bottom of this mindset in the country, and it's probably the best time to get into Canadian mining, right? Because it couldn't get worse than what it is. So I think it could only improve, and we got to maintain positivity and all work together, I think, and work with our neighbors to the south.
And I'll leave with this. I'll let you have the final say, but you look at some of these great, like a company like Newfound Gold that's actually gone down in the last year, which had great results. I mean, you look at that, you go, that went down, even though they've got great results and they're moving forward. You guys held strong and you have gone up. That's a testament to what you've done, what you've put forward. And like I said, to go up in that challenging market is very impressive. And it's just a matter of people paying attention to what you're up to, what you're doing. And like you said, once money starts coming into this like small, tightly held sector, and it starts to flow in any meaningful way, they look for the good projects, like who's got good numbers, who's done and that's easy to find very quickly. And it's great to have you on. Tell us what they're going to have to look for in the next short term, next few months, and what they can kind of hold you accountable for. No one can hold anyone accountable for stock price, but they can hold you accountable for metrics and milestones and whatnot. What should we be looking for?
Yeah, first, I want to say thanks for having me on today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think it was the most interactive interview that I've had in a while. So really appreciate this combining narratives. And I think it's really important. But with Ramp Metals, our ticker is RAMP. I'm sure it's flashing along the screen here. But like I said earlier, we have some lab results of our recent field program coming out soon. We're going to use those results and fly some geophysics. We'll combine the two with our original drill holes and create more drill targets. We should get our permits at the end of the month, if not very early February, and we'll be drilling all February into March. And then you can expect drill results typically 30 to 60 days after the drills are done turning. We will rush a few samples where we think there's high-grade gold to maybe get some of those results out early. But you can expect us with our $5 million treasury to spend that money in the ground and actually get results for our shareholders. So we can't predict what's going to be in the ground, but we can do our best to find it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, CEO of Ramp Metals, Jordan Black. It was excellent. We look forward to chatting with you some more. We're going to have our eyes peeled on those results too. And we're looking forward to a year ahead. We're glad you were one of the first conversations here because it is a critical conversation that we need to meld together. And the more we have it and help people kind of get their head wrapped around all this change and why it's good and how we can help and how Canada plays a role, the better off we're all going to be. And we can make a little money on the side there as well. So thank you so much, Jordan. Really appreciate it. Good luck in 2025. It's going to be an awesome year.
Thank you. Good luck in 2025 as well. Cheers.